Evening, everyone. We are live. It is Friday, March 19th. We just passed the last Shamrock Shake day of last Friday was our last Shamrock Shake Friday, and we've got no more Shamrock Shake because McDonald's has a war against Shamrock Shakes.
How many times can we say Shamrock Shakes in the first minute of this?
I don't know. Can we say that more, or can we say Sparrow Agnew more? That's the real test. But let's
1 minute.
I'd like to introduce our lovely panel of doctors. Let's start with Dr. Joellen Huff from Brunswick, Maryland. Dr. Huff is the queen of Republicans of Western Maryland. She was the Trump chair for Western Maryland. An all-around great person. Welcome, Dr. Huff.
Thank you. Thank you, Dwight. Thanks for having me on your show again.
Yeah. And then we have Dr. Jason Trott from the best part of Anne Arundel County, as he said, South County. I don't know how South County could be good considering there's no Annapolis or boating or any of that stuff. Like the
plenty of boating, Dwight. We have marinas. I can throw a baseball and hit 3 marinas right out on my front porch.
Yeah, but you don't have the fine dinings of Annapolis.
And we elect Republicans here.
Yeah, but
right.
You don't have a McDonald's though.
Isn't the McDonald's
now that the Shamrock Shake is gone, why would you even want a McDonald's?
That is true. But do you have a steak and shake or anything nice like that?
What? No, we don't do. We have a Royal Farms. That's it.
Oh, really? Not even a Sbarro's? Wow.
Royal Farms has been plotting an invasion of my home state of New Jersey, according to my parents.
Well, Wawa's won't.
They're encroaching on Wawa territory.
Exactly.
They're actually in Florida too. Royal Farms
and Wawa.
Those Wawa.
And the return of Dr. Sackstein, who's been away on studies, and then she tells me, "Oh, I can go to class whenever I want because that's just the way they teach."
They're asynchronous. I'm busy trolling the liberals at Georgetown.
And the Dean of Washington Politics, Don Irvine, Chairman of Ackerson Academia. Welcome, Don. It's been a busy week. Had a lot of fun stuff. Did you see Joe Biden's impression of Jerry Ford today?
Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and start there, and we'll just bounce around as usual. Yeah. So and Jack, you want to talk about this too, I guess, a little bit. So President Biden had a little bit of a stumble on Air Force One, recorded all over the place. It's gotten a lot of media coverage, but let me you have to be honest. I mean, while it is reminiscent of the Jerry Ford days, is this something that we want to concentrate on, focus on with the media? Is it fair? Is it unfair?
Well, I'll tell you this. Do you remember in 1996 Bob Dole fell and it was basically on the front page of every liberal rag in America, frankly. But the rest of the story is back in 44 elections? Yeah, 44 elections where FDR fell out of his wheelchair. Not a single paper covered it. I think, the media is severely lacking in class and decorum, frankly. And I think, it's funny, Joe Biden impression, being like, can't walk up the stairs. He can't walk that. He can't walk upstairs straight. Was he drinking, by the way? Does anybody know about that if he was drinking?
Regardless, while I agree that this shouldn't be news worth covering, I think you're going too far back in history. I think
really
is Biden made such a big deal about last year when Trump kind of stumbled down that ramp a little bit, and now here he is less than a year later tripping up the stairs. Is tip at this point. My mom. Go ahead.
He didn't just trip up the stairs one time. He tripped up the stairs 3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna go and outdo each other, you got to keep one-upping each other, I guess.
Breaking news. We're about to be joined by Dr. Foley, the original doctor. Hey.
You gotta unmute yourself. Yep, there he is.
Hey, Matthew, we're talking about the great coordinations of his fraudulency, Joe Biden.
Wait, he remuted himself. There we go.
Go ahead.
I'm here. I'm just trying to get a good background lighting here.
Go ahead, Joellen. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no. I was just saying, to Jackie's point, not one time, but 3 times he stumbled up the stairs. I mean, the guy's 79 years old, and no one went to his to his aid to see if he was okay or to help him up. They just left him there. And
Well, basically, because they're probably
then the
they're probably getting messages from Camilla saying, "Did he die? Did he die? Oh, he survived."
Did it finally happen? I'm still waiting for them to find a reason to blame Trump for Biden tripping up the stairs.
Yeah,
Only a matter of time.
and you had the White House press secretary. I mean, kind of try to brush that off by saying that, I think she's almost stumbled or she's had trouble too, as a way to try to deflect that. But I mean, as Joey Lynn was saying, the guy's 79 years old. This is one of the concerns is his age, and so when you see him do this, it does, I think, get to some people that that knee-jerk reaction is going to be, this is why it's hard, dangerous to have a guy who's 79 years old, who's just starting out his presidency. What are we going to see for the next 4 years? That type of thing. I will say, it was when I first saw the story, that the report that he had stumbled, I went ahead and I just went ahead and Google like Joe Biden falls, and like the top 8 responses were New York Post, and like the Daily Telegraph and things like that. But in that top 8, there was no CNN, there was no USA Today, there was no MSNBC, there was no NBC, ABC, CBS, or anything. There was nothing none of the mainstream media had reported it, based on a Google search, on the top results. So you kind of do wonder about, media pulling back a little bit, saying, well, we're deeming that is not newsworthy. However, if President Trump stumbles, that is newsworthy.
Yes, and it just shows basically the corrupt nature of the media. I mean, I long for the days of Mike Wallace in 60 Minutes, when all they did was make up stuff about General Westmoreland and the Tet Offensive.
But
that
even
seems tame by now with
beyond
today's
just
standards.
this issue, when did we get to a point where the average age of a president, like, he's not considered old in president terms, right? Like, it seems like all of our presidents are like 60s, 70s, and getting older. When has that become the norm? Is it because they have quote unquote more experience, or like
no, Jackie, no. We actually look. Governor President George W. Bush, he was a fairly young president. Bill Clinton was a young president.
I know Obama was young, but I don't know. Just when I look at a lot of these debate stages during the primaries, the people who get cut first seem to be the younger candidates.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. The Democrats stacked the deck, so all their young people they were bought off or run off, frankly. So it was two old men, there's the two grumpy old men, Bernie and Joey. And then since they basically ripped away the nomination from Bernie again, we got little Joey Biden is now his fraudulency, And on our side, President Trump was our nominee, and something. I bet President Trump could outrun, outwalk, outthink, outtalk his fraudulency.
That may be true, but he's no baby either.
Does that matter? I mean, age brings wisdom.
Well, but it also brings dementia, as we're seeing now with the guy who hasn't even done a formal press conference yet.
Yeah, the thing
He's
is,
promising to do one.
If you look at it from a part of world leaders, I mean, Biden's really not that old, right? I mean, there are lots of world leaders.
Look at Xi Jinping? Is that his name? Is he still?
Xi? Yeah.
Yeah. Opposed to Hu Jintao, who is actually a spring chicken compared to Xi Jinping.
Well, so since we're on the topic of Biden's, capabilities, both physically and now mentally, we also saw that kind of that challenge from Putin, right? Saying that he would go head to head with him on a live conversation. And I think the official statement from the White House is, oh, well, he's kind of busy. What's your guys' take on that? Did you guys read about that?
Yeah, I heard about that, but I think it's just more bluster, frankly. Joellen, I'd like to bring you in on this. Who would win a debate between President Putin and his fraudulency, Joe Biden?
Putin.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even a contest. It's not even we don't even need to think about it. And here's the thing. By the way, going back to Joe Biden real quick.
Going the whole time. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. What's funny is you'd see President Putin would be rolling his eyes like, why am I here? Why am I here?
It's not even a challenge. It's like he kept saying, they kept saying during the Trump presidency, the Democrats kept saying, oh, they see us as a laughingstock. They see us as a joke. I'm like, no, they really see us as a weak joke now. If ever there was a time that foreign countries were probably thinking about, taking a shot at the U.S., it's probably now.
Well, what did the Taliban just say today? The Taliban just said today, if you don't get out of Afghanistan by May 1, we're going to resume hostilities.
Yeah, I mean, like, how could they don't even have to try that hard, since even like we literally had got like official, Department of Defense Twitter accounts, right? Like tweeting attacks at Tucker Carlson instead of actually focusing on the military. Right?
Well,
Remember that?
I mean, that part's ridiculous. Tucker Carlson, I mean, why is the military targeting him?
Right, do they not have anything better to do?
I hope Tucker has some defenses against drone attacks.
It's ridiculous.
I won't put it past these guys to do a drone attack on Tucker's house. But, Joellen, this is a tradition of the Democrats. You recall, remember Barack Hussein Obamacus wagged his little finger at the Supreme Court justice at the State of the Union when they could not respond. They don't have a platform to respond. And he basically wagged his little finger at Judge Alito and Judge Roberts, and how dare these Democrats? They're attacking private citizens who cannot defend themselves, frankly.
Well, I mean, I think on the Tucker thing too, though. I mean, it's interesting because Tucker has become the lightning rod for these guys. I mean, they are so focused on this guy. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's like he's, I mean, he is, one of the highest rated, anchors, hosts on Fox, but aren't they kind of doing him a favor by spending so much time on him? I mean, this is kind of ridiculous for them to devote so much time. Do they think they're going to bring this guy down? That's not going to happen. I think you'll wind up getting more people walking to say, oh, wait a minute, what is Tucker saying? We like this,
Yeah. And that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be more folks are going to be tuning into Tucker. These guys are just helping Fox's ratings go up.
Meanwhile, CNN has said that it's just a routine loss of viewers, that they're down 6 figures, if not 7 figures of viewers ever since Biden took over.
Our show gets more viewers than CNN.
And we don't have the benefit of being in an airport here.
You know what? I might actually turn on CNN the day that Cuomo either resigns or is indicted, just to see what his brother has to say.
To see them not cover it.
Right.
I still think Cuomo's going to fly off in his Gulf G7 to Montreal because he can't take it to France. Like all tyrants and despots, they go to France. He can't go to France, so he's going to France light, Montreal. So he'll be, Baby Doc Duvalier went to France after he was exiled. And then it's funny, his successor, when he was exiled, he went to France. I wonder if he's in the same neighborhood as Baby Doc. And they're all living in the same neighborhood. But one other thing
Dwight, back to what Matt was saying about CNN viewers, it does intrigue me a little bit because this is a thing that was kind of expected. Actually, all the cable networks were expecting some kind of viewership loss post-Trump. And it actually really didn't happen initially because of the riots, right? The thing on Capitol Hill got people, they were still paying a lot of attention. There was a ton of anti-Trump rhetoric going on there. But now that seems to be fading a little bit. And now that seems to be going further and further into the background. We're now seeing what that fallout is. Fox is going to wind up in the end doing better than the other two, because MSNBC and CNN, they actually these guys were competing neck and neck with a lot of things on Fox in certain time slots. But now we're starting to see it kind of separate again, and we know that Jeff Zucker, head of CNN, he's not going to return. His contract is over. He's leaving, which will give CNN, that'll be an interesting situation to see what CNN does then. But, those networks, particularly the liberal networks, they benefited greatly. They profited heavily by covering President Trump for the last 4 years. Joe Biden is, we know he's pretty dull. Who wants to tune into MSNBC or CNN to watch them talk about Biden, especially if they're going to praise Biden?
There's nothing to talk about because he won't talk to them. But I am curious. I didn't look at the numbers, but did Fox recover? Because I know that they took a hit for a while with because for a while, Fox was telling their news anchors, stop covering anything having to do with election fraud. And the Trump, the very strong Trump supporters were like, we don't like that. Fox is going liberal, we're switching to OAN. So did they ever recover from that?
I think they were recovering because there was a report, I think, the other day of where Newsmax had lost a ton of viewers, which means is that, things are starting to kind of level off. People's anger and that kind of reaction of okay, I want them to talk about election fraud and how this was a stolen election. They're not going to talk about it. They're not going to feed. So I'm going to go to the networks that are talking about it. But that is, once again, time is taking care of a lot of this. As time goes on, these things fade, and things are starting to going to be flowing back a little bit more to normal. But there will be some people, I think, that will stay with OAN, and Newsmax, because they still will think, I like it better overall,
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of them are still going to stick back because, when you look at it, if you compare those three, Fox is, they've got a great lineup overall. They have great production values. This is something that when I watched the three of them, I was like, okay, this is killing me. The production values of Newsmax and OAN compared to Fox, of course, there's a lot of money involved. It's just night and day. And so I have a hard time watching the other networks.
Well, remember, Newsmax is like the old NET. You've been on NET in the past, Don. It's kind of like that. It really reminded me about the old NET, with the sets and all that, and the graphics, But then again, that was the technology. They were on par with
the
other
other thing
networks.
I heard a lot of people saying was oh, I hate that they're not talking about this. I'm leaving Fox News. However, I'm still going to watch Tucker, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, and Greg Gutfeld. So it's I'm going to leave, but I'm still going to watch other primetime shows.
There's a lot more talk than real action about actually carrying that through and saying we're going to do this and all that. It sounds popular to say, oh yeah, we're not going to watch Fox either. But for a lot of people, to give up people like Tucker or Sean or Laura and things that's hard for them. They've grown to like them. Those are very popular hosts.
That's how I feel about all the
things
things
Don,
I don't agree with the certain actors' political views. I'm not going to watch any of their movies. I'm not giving up MCU just because Chris Evans is a super dem.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, Don, you and I, we remember the days before Fox News. Even I remember the days before Fox News, as and I think back then NET was the only conservative broadcast out there before Fox News came around. I believe NET was around whole year and a half before Fox News got started. And remember, Catherine Cryer was the big anchor that Fox News hired, uber liberal Catherine Cryer.
Yeah, look, Fox did what a lot of other conservative outlets have done in the past. The Washington Times has been in business for about, I think, 39 years this coming May.
Wow.
And when they started, one of the things that my father complained about initially was just that they brought a lot of liberals from the old Washington Star in. But part of that was that they wanted some credibility. They had to go. There really weren't a lot of conservative writers that were well known back in 1982.
Yeah, so Bob Novak, I think, may have been the only one. Bob Novak.
So you do that over time. Over time, hopefully you can kind of kick some of them out, or find as the conservative voices start to rise. But this seems to be a pattern of you bring on a few well-known liberals, that type of thing to give you that in journalism to give you some credence, some credibility, and then maybe find a way to kind of replace them over time. But yeah, you're right. Very, very much so with Fox. They hired people like that, but they didn't last long in the end, right? Once Fox really took off, it became very conservative.
Alison Camerata, I remember she was she replaced my friend Karen Chetry, who was the weekend host on Fox News. But and it's funny, real quick story about Karen Chetry. When we were in high school, she was the Democrat club president, and she was an uber liberal. And then I remember I ran into her when she was at Fox News. I go, Karen, I'm glad to see you've come over to the light side of the force. She goes, well, Dwight, I got a job at Channel 21, and I saw my first paycheck, and I can't be a Democrat.
See, Dwight, you bring up these names that it's I had almost completely forgotten about her.
Yeah.
That's all these things that you bring up. It's wow, okay, that's a name that I haven't heard of for years.
It reminds me of when he talks about TV shows.
Hey, we haven't even gone there yet, Matthew. The original Doctor. So
there doesn't seem to be any limit to how far back in time Dwight can go on anything.
Oh, look, I can go back I can go even back to pre-television days. Like vaudeville acts and stuff like that. But
Where did all this information come from, Dwight? I am curious.
Okay, okay. We always had this encyclopedia of television programs. I used to read that a lot because I never wanted to invest the time to actually watch these programs. So I just read the synopsis, read the synopsis and the TV guide. I'd actually go and I could basically extrapolate what's going to happen at the end. It's like the $6 million man this week. He's going to be fighting. Well, yeah. Is he going to die? No. So we know he's going to win at the end. So we know that, or it might be a two-part episode, but we know how it's going to end. So I found it, even now, I find watching television more of a waste of time because I don't know how it's going to end. That's why I only like to go see movies where I know how it's the beginning, the middle, and end, how it's going to end. Because then I know, do I want to invest the time to watch this movie like Wonder Woman 1984? I dodged that bullet. Everybody who watched it said the movie sucked, and they said the best part was the Linda Carter Wonder Woman cameo at the very end. And so I already saw that, so I felt I saw the best parts. Just like Picard, the final episode, everybody says was the best part of the whole series.
I liked the finale of Picard.
I did too, but I didn't like everything leading up to the finale, frankly.
I thought it was good.
And I'm a big fan of George Jefferson. He is my favorite fictional character because he lives the American dream. He's a Republican. He lived next to Archie Bunker. He moved on up to the east side. He started with one cleaning store, then went to six. Then he had I think by the time the series ended, he had 25 Jefferson Cleaners in a location near you in New York City.
So are we going to change the name of the show from Dr. Politics to Dr. Television?
We could. That could be another show.
Well, I'll challenge the rest of the panel at some point in time to go through and really work on their television knowledge of certain things, and see how much you can beat Dwight back on the superficial knowledge he has of shows because he only reads the synopsis, right?
My dad told me that old show could win Ben Stein's money. It sounds similar to that.
Oh, that's not that old. That's not that old. I mean, Wonder Years is older than that.
Hey, look, that show was hilarious.
It was. I loved the Wonder Years. It was a great show.
There was a lot of great television out there. All right, actually, by mentioning George Jefferson, I wanted to ask you about this because that kind of about all this supposed, at the anti-Asian racist bias, whatever you want to call it, type of thing. Is that, does it exist? This is we had this thing going down in Georgia, these shootings. Was it because of this guy's, sex addiction? Does he have an anti-Asian bias because of the people who were mostly Asian? Is this a big issue? I mean, remember, I'm half Japanese, married to a Korean. And I think Matt speaks Chinese or something, right?
I speak Chinese.
You speak Chinese too?
That was my minor in college.
But here's the thing. My view is maybe I'm living in a bubble.
It's an easy language to forget very quickly.
Yeah,
like Hebrew.
It's like French. French is that way too. I took 6 years of French and 4 years of Germany, and I probably know a few words of both.
Yeah, I mean, I was
reminds me of, and I Love Lucy.
Totally off topic, but yeah, my mom just asked me to read Torah at my brother's wedding. I'm like, oh great, when's the last time I read Hebrew?
But
are you going to brush up so you'll be ready?
I'm gonna listen to a recording of it until I memorize it, like theater.
But is there? I mean, like I said, I mean, my mother was Japanese, my wife is Korean. I mean, we're about we're pretty Asian in this family and everything like this. But I mean, I have a hard.
And you like Chinese food too, so
all this. You see, look at these Democrats. I mean, you see, what was it, Ted Lieu from California? I mean, he's railing about all of this stuff. I mean, it just looks like it's yet another excuse.
I think it's a manufactured crisis. I know a lot of Asian folks. Some of my best friends are Asians. Some of my relatives are Asians.
I mean, Dwight, you're Indian. You're considered Asian, right?
Actually, no. I was told by a certain former member of our Central Committee, I am not. I am Whitey McWhitey, according to a certain member of our Central Committee, because we're classified as Caucasians, because the original inhabitants of India were driven out by who were the Druids or Druidians? I don't know. It sounds like Druids, but it's not really Druids. But they were forced out by the Aryan conquerors, which were my ancestors. And thereby, I am not Asian. I am Whitey McWhitey, according to a former member of the Central Committee.
Well, something I want
Whatever
to
it
point
is.
out, and it'll bring Matt into the conversation here, is at least that the people are speaking out against any kind of attacks against people of Asian heritage. And I don't know if any of you guys follow Marie Fisher on any kind of social media, but it seems like the only people who never get their time to be protected are Jewish people. There's so much anti-Semitism out
Here's the
there.
thing, Jackie. Why? Because the liberal media and the liberal elites in the Democrat Party condone anti-Semitism. They're all a bunch of
Why is that?
anti-Semites.
And
They
yet,
all go to J Street.
so many Jewish people, like all of my parents' friends from synagogue are all Democrats, and it's like we just don't understand why.
Do they also believe in land for peace too? Are they also those? Or is it that
No,
crowd?
I mean some of them do, but no, not
Yeah.
most.
Yeah, I was hoping, Jackie, I was hoping either you or Matt could explain that very thing. It's like, why are so many Jews hardcore Democrats?
But and then also, why is anti-Semitism apparently not a big deal when every other race and creed seems to be protected? And
I hate to say it, anti-Semitism is a bigger deal than this anti-Asian stuff that CNN and MSLSD is manufacturing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are synagogues that are still being spray painted with swastikas. That are being firebombed. Just the other day, I caught like the last 5 minutes of Archie Bunker's Place, and this is a show from 1984, 83, where they had where these anti-Semites basically blew up a trash can in front of little Steffi's synagogue. And Archie joined the synagogue as a result of that. But anyways, but my point is, where is the outrage about these anti-Semitic attacks around it? We don't hear anything about them. There is so much anti-Semitism going around. It is crazy. You think, I'm going to stop before I say something I could really get into trouble for, so I'm not going to. But my point is, there is a soft bigotry of anti-Semitism in the mainstream media, frankly, and the Democrat Party. If you think about it, these are the same people that always took, if you watched ABC News in the 1980s during the so-called Intifada, when the terrorists were basically pelting rocks at poor defenseless Israelis and blowing up school buses with children going to school. Everything they'd rush to talk to Hanan Ashwari, who's basically Yasser Arafat in a skirt, frankly. And she was a terrorist. She should have been arrested, but no, she never got arrested. She should have been in jail, including Yasser Arafat should have been thrown into jail. And frankly, ABC News was the worst of the worst. They would always take the side of the terrorists, the troglodytes from hell, the Palestinians. It would be anybody but Israel's side. I remember when Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, they were like giddy about the fact that it was a Jewish person that shot Yitzhak Rabin. You could see it in their eyes, the glee in their eye. Oh, wow. Look, another Jew killed a Jew that wanted to give away land to the terrorists.
Well, Matt, weren't you telling us on Sunday that in Palestine, they have Sesame Street and they try to teach the IDF?
Yeah, I talked about that, how the IDF murdered Big Bird. Because Big Bird was probably. Go ahead, Matthew.
Oh, I mean, just to that point, obviously Palestinian indoctrination of Jew hatred they start them very young. That's their summer camp is, go learn how to be a child soldier, basically.
And here's the thing. This is when it will never end. Because, here's the thing. When a child is born in a Palestinian household, they're like, he was going to grow up to be a suicide bomber, or as I like to say, homicide bomber. While when we have kids, he'll be a doctor or a lawyer, or he'll be an engineer, or he'll be something professional. We never say, oh, I hope he grows up to be a terrorist,
Mm-hmm.
That is the problem. And it is a mentality of those folks, and it is a sickening thing. It's a plague in the Middle East. And frankly, I think we do need to have a significant military presence in the Middle East, frankly. I know this goes against the puts me squarely in the neocon camp, but I'm sorry. Israel's our best friend, the only democracy in the Middle East, frankly. We need to defend Israel. We need to defend the oil that's flowing out. We need to have free-flowing oil, frankly. And real quick segue about oil. You see Joe Biden has raised the prices of gasoline for his oil buddies at Burisma.
Yeah, I've never
Ukrainian
been
oil buddies.
To not have a car.
But I'm off my soapbox. Joellen, you seem like you have something to say.
I do want to ask this question though. In general, I mean, in terms of what do we have to do to get more Jews to kind of embrace the Republican Party? I mean, it seems that the Republican Party is more in sync with a lot of things than the Democrats are.
I mean, Jexit's been doing a great job of that. I would say Trump actually convinced a lot of Jewish people. If there's one thing that, and could be the one and only thing, all of my parents, never Trumper friends, actually agreed with, it was his stance on Israel and the way that he really actually did kind of foster peace in the Middle East a little bit. Unfortunately, as with anybody else, you really can't approach a political conversation with the intent to tell somebody that they're wrong and they should switch parties. They kind of have to hit that aha moment on their own. So I really think it's just going to be a matter of time as the Democrats now have control of everything and just refuse to do anything about anti-Semitism. It's, hey, when's it our time?
They've elected six or eight anti-Semites in the United States Congress. 6 to 8. We all know who they are.
Yeah, I mean, Dan in the chat saying Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is a great model of Jewish conservatism. But a lot of, I think people are just going to have to wake up and see it on their own one day. Just how far the Democrats will go to delegitimize Jewish people.
We talked a little bit earlier about in terms of, what President Trump, you got to give him credit for what he did on the world stage. I mean, the things that he did in foreign policy, which surprised a lot of people. They didn't think he had the chops for it. And he really kind of laid down the law and set things in motion. I mean, what do you guys see in terms of relations, under the Biden administration with the U.S. and Israel? I thought, things were going great under Trump. I'm just questioning how they're going to be under Biden.
Matt, you want to take that one?
About how what's going to be under Biden?
How relations are going to be with Israel under Biden?
Well, Israel has its first election in 2 years on Tuesday. Netanyahu has so far gone 3 for 3. So I mean, I expect that he'll
after Tuesday.
I expect he'll remain prime minister after this. I mean, but who knows? But look, if a more liberal prime minister does emerge from these elections, which it's a possibility. I mean, 4 elections, rolling the dice. You may have someone else. I think it'll be easier to know the answer to that once we know who is going to be running Israel. I imagine if it's Netanyahu again, then things will continue to be rocky. The Biden admin, in terms of its nominations, and my outlet, the Free Beacon, is doing a good job of really hammering them on this. They're basically the only people in the world who think returning to the Iran deal is a good thing. So if Bibi remains prime minister, obviously, they're at odds. If someone else takes over, who knows? I think it'll depend on who. But Colin Kahl, Kahl, is someone the Free Beacon is constantly writing about. I think we do like 5 pieces a week on this guy.
Is he Labour, or is he the offshoot party of Likud?
No. This is a Biden nominee who's still up for Senate confirmation. Colin Kahl. And he, one of the Republican congressmen today said that the only policy bureau he's fit to run is in Tehran. So, it'll be interesting to see if he gets confirmed. Susan Collins today said she won't vote for him. So it may be heading to a tiebreaker by Kamala.
Unless Joe Manchin goes with us.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday. Let's assume Netanyahu wins, as he tends to do. And then, but if not, maybe they'll be more aligned with the Biden admin. But if Bibi wins, I continue to expect them to be at odds.
And I know Kamala Harris had a call with Bibi, and she had said that they would wish to continue being allies with our country would wish to continue being allies with Israel. But it'll be interesting to see, because I don't think her words are going to match their actions.
I really wish Bibi wouldn't take these guys' calls. Like when Joe Biden calls up Bibi, he just hangs up on him. Much like because that's what they did to Joe Biden. They did that to President Trump. Some of these world leaders, that don't like him, hung up on him and treated him very badly. They ought to be ashamed of themselves. I really wish some foreign leaders would do the same to his fraudulency. Correct, Joellen?
I agree.
Yeah. So let's go to the price of gas. I really want to talk about the price of gas.
Let's talk about the price of gas. Go
You
ahead.
know,
It's
price of
too
gas,
damn high,
I
Dwight.
don't want to think about it.
It cost me
And it's only
67.
going to get worse.
I had to pay $67 to fill up my Yukon. You know how long it's been since I had to pay over north of $50 to fill up my Yukon? Barack Hussein Obama was president when I had to pay this much. $67.
You're welcome to join me on the Uber front.
I don't think so.
Uber everywhere.
I believe in
Okay.
democracy.
I
Well-
want to see a picture of Dwight riding in the back of an Uber. Okay,
In
that would
the back of a Prius.
be
I've ridden-
priceless.
I've
I
ridden
actually
in-
like him to be the Uber driver in the Yukon.
Nah, I wouldn't. I don't like other people in my car, frankly. That I don't know. But no, Matthew, I did take Uber when we were in Cleveland. We took Uber. We also took Uber to the metro in
A
2000.
man of the people. Wow, a regular man of the people here.
You know, so I've taken Uber. I mean,
Minute.
you know, but we took the Uber Black service.
The
Now,
Schmee Uber.
You know, I mean, okay, so gas it has been advancing at a fairly rapid rate. I do want to say, I mean, I think we have to be fair when we talk about the price of gas. I mean, it has been moving up since the
Who's this?
election, and there is a confluence of events here. A lot of it that Biden will have to own for sure, because the policies on fracking, the policies on oil leases on federal land, those are things that his policies are going to affect and are starting to affect that. But we also have OPEC cutting back production. We have demand picking up, and then we also got the extra whammy of that huge storm down in Texas that took a lot of refineries offline. So I think you have to be fair, even as a conservative, even if we don't like Joe Biden, you can't blame it all on him yet. But in the long run, he's going to have to own it. And his bigger problem, I think, too, no matter what all the factors that go into it, is that, if the headline number gets to, for, the average price of gas gets to like $4, he's got a PR problem he's got to deal with.
Yeah, and
Look,
it's
look
already
at-
it's already $4 at that gas station, which is the most expensive gas station in DC. But the one by Kennedy Center, and the one by
The one down by the
Water.
Watergate and everything.
Yeah, it's over $4 a gallon, and it's criminal. And where's the media rushing to? Because they used to always do that and all I did, Don, was take the headlines that they were saying when President Bush and Vice President Cheney were in charge. You go, these oil men are raising the price of gasoline because they want their oil buddies to make a lot of money. So does Joe Biden want his oil buddies and his families to make a lot of money? Is that why he's not doing anything but the rise? He's not even addressed the sharp rise of the price of gasoline. This is his war on the poor. This is the war on the middle class. This is the war on the comfortable amongst us.
Well, look, I mean, Joe Biden doesn't want to address anything that's uncomfortable for him or inconvenient.
Yeah.
The same thing can be said of the border crisis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't want to talk about, it's not a crisis, it's a surge, or
and it's not his fault. It's Trump's fault.
That's right. It's Trump's fault.
It's so bad that even
Take it away, Joellen. I know you're ready for this
Go
one.
to wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. How about we're going to create a border crisis? It's going to be so bad that Mexico's going to deal with it themselves, because that's what's happening.
Also,
You're
Biden's
wrong about a border crisis. It's not a crisis. It's a challenge. And it's not a detention center. It's a reception center. Come on now.
And those
We've
cages
got-
are daycare centers, right, Joellen?
Right? I mean, let's just.
Did you
let's
hear the congresswoman
call
that said
it by different
media
names.
should not be? But Joellen, did you hear this reporter, this basically congresswoman on CNN, basically, and the White House says we're going to go there. No press is welcome. That just takes me back to 9/11. If you recall the story, what was that? Who was ABC's gal? That was the White House correspondent. I forget her name. But anyways, 9/11, President Bush landed on the tarmac somewhere and let the press corps go. And you had that woman from ABC News, because when they did 1 year retro, she goes, I said, Mr. President, actually, I think she called him George, but she goes, Mr. President, you can't let us go and just fly off somewhere. You got to keep the press. We're a democracy here. You need to keep us. Where are those reporters today telling, hey, fraudulency, you need to You need us around to keep you honest.
He won't even address anything whatsoever, because I don't think he has the mental capacity to address anything, and they're hiding it, and they're not being honest about exactly how impaired he really is. And I think that should be terrifying to every American, specifically since Kamala Harris is the second in charge, and then it would be what, Nancy Pelosi? I mean, those are really terrifying thoughts for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Americans
should be scared about that.
And so this whole border crisis is a real problem for Americans, specifically because they go into these detention centers or reception centers, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. It's just a nice term, reception center. Please, we are not welcoming anyone here into this country. We just came out of a pandemic that has put millions of Americans out of work, and we have loss of jobs, out of work. People have been sick. People have died. Our own American school children haven't even been back to school. Like, my kids only do 2 days a week of hybrid learning. That's ridiculous.
His fraudulence would say that's success.
It is
one
not
day. I know. Remember, his fraudulence said 1 day a week is success. 2 days. I mean, that's crazy. You're talking.
Well, and just like we could go back and say, that he was the top of his law class too. So clearly, he's not the sharpest tool in the box. No, so with that being said, it's very upsetting because this crisis at the border is allowing the illegal aliens to come into our country. They are flooding our border, coming into our country. They only have to stay there 2 days, and then they're receiving a COVID shot that should be used for other Americans.
Have you gotten your vaccine yet, Joellen? I haven't.
No, and I will not get it because
I want to get it. But my point is this: I'm not getting it because they're probably giving it to illegals. And they're giving our vaccines are going to illegal aliens who come in here with COVID, frankly.
Yeah, and they're not even testing them. They're just giving out shots to people who, I'm not going to out whoever the person is, but I know someone personally who's having trouble getting her own family member signed up who has a serious pre-existing condition, and he can't get a shot, but an illegal immigrant can.
Yeah, I know. Look, I had childhood asthma. COVID can kill me,
Point. That is very upsetting, is that these illegal aliens are coming into our country and they're receiving benefits that are for American citizens. That's the problem.
Shipping the vaccines to Mexico and Canada. Like, hello.
So if you're going to ship it to Canada, then keep your people. Or I'm sorry, not Canada, but to Mexico, then keep your people. Keep them. Keep them and give them the shot. And,
if there's one silver lining to all of this mess and all of this CF that the Biden administration is putting in, is that I think that we're going to have a really amazing midterm next year.
Well, you would think that, but with all the election fraud, it's really hard to say at this point.
We have to stop HR 1 because that's the one that federalized elections. And elections from my days in studying history and civics. Elections are a function of the state, and within the states, the local municipalities, the counties. That is who runs these elections, not the federal government. Federal government stay the hell out of my state's elections.
Well, and how about they released the transcript of that was in the trash folder, mind you, of that conversation that took place in Georgia where Trump supposedly said, "Find the fraud and I'll make you very happy." Guess who never said that? Right? It was all made up.
Well, it's kind of like Mitt Romney.
Still refused to do any kind of investigation.
Jackie, I know you're shocked, but you really shouldn't be because they did the exact. Harry Reid did the same thing to Mitt Romney. Says he didn't. Somebody told him, and then he actually goes on 60 Minutes and brags about the fact that, we won, didn't we? You arrogant little putz. I want to take my hand to Harry Reid when he says stuff like that.
Well, I mean, what she's talking about, Jackie's talking about, though, is that was a huge story in terms of this because the Washington Post used unnamed sources to create this story. Yeah. And everybody buys into it. Yeah. And then they find out that, oh, wait a minute, he actually didn't say that after all.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they have been building up this whole case and all of these things on Trump based on that. Guess
Yep.
everything has just fallen apart. And the Post issued some correction, but Post is not really paying much of a price for this.
The
And
damage has already been done.
But
Well,
that's
here-
what they
here's
have
the
been
qu-
doing
here-
this
and that's the
entire
problem with
time.
these things, is
They
that
have-
Here-
when the
here's the
media goes
question
out, they
here.
say these things.
Yeah.
They can correct it later on, but as you said, the damage is
Doesn't
done
matter.
that first time.
Yeah.
You can never completely erase the damage you've
Right.
done after you've said
And they're
that.
they're not going to go back now, review all of it, and just, oh, sorry, we were wrong. Let's take Biden out and put Trump back in. That's not going to
But
happen.
And
Right.
here's the thing. I will tell you this. I've got unnamed sources that tell me that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have never paid their taxes. Okay, now I've got unnamed sources that have told me that. So, I guess that works for a story, right? That's
Does it
a
always
credible
work,
story.
right? If I have an unnamed source that says I have a date with Zac Efron tomorrow, is he going to show up? Because that'd be great.
Now we're going to sound old. Who's Zac Efron now?
But that's the Democrats. That's right out of the Democrats'
yeah,
playbook.
we-
I mean, if you say it long enough
Yeah.
and say it often enough,
Yeah.
people are going to believe it.
I mean, Joe,
And that they don't need to issue a correction, because by that time everyone has believed it, and
Yeah.
it's the gospel at that point.
yeah, it's like hands up, don't shoot never happened. The Tet Offensive did not happen the way they said it did. George
Well,
W. Bush did not go AWOL from the Texas Air National Guard, which Dan Rather
Wait,
pushed.
speaking
Yes.
of hands up, don't shoot, I think we're going to be expecting another round of Black Lives Matter protests again. I don't know if you guys are keeping up with that trial, but the judge today said that the body cam footage from George Floyd's arrest the year prior to, the big thing that happened causing his death is admissible in court. And that was showing him, popping a bunch of fentanyl right before he got arrested, and his same pattern of behavior of resisting arrest and everything like that, that is concrete evidence showing, his behavior when approached by the police to be arrested, and him yelling for his mother and his emotional response is not admissible evidence in court. So here come the
Well,
protests.
But Jackie, haven't they been burning down, cities with BLM and Antifa this whole time? I mean, they haven't
It
stopped.
seems like it calmed down at least a little. I mean, I remember this time last year, or around the summer of last year, beginning of the pandemic, the wires used to be on video chats until 3 a.m. We were sitting there while Ryan Nidak was streaming Fox News, and we were just watching these cities burning down in horror. And are we going to hit that point again where it's that bad?
But they're still doing it though.
They're just not covering it anymore.
They're continuing to do it, and they're not doing anything about it. But then there are those mayors and those governors of those liberal cities who are continuing to allow these BLM and Antifa activists, rioters, and anarchists to literally destroy cities and continue to condone lawless behavior with their handout to the federal government and to the American taxpayers to say, hey, guess what? I want that money to, but they've burned and destroyed the cities, but yet you have to pay for it. You have to pay me back and pay for the destruction and lawless behavior because it's okay, because they're just expressing themselves, and we ought to give them room to continue to express it.
And Joellen,
Your first
gall,
you're canceled.
and Joellen, the gall of the media, they take one incident in 4 years of President Trump's presidency, and they call that an insurrection. Okay,
Yeah.
That is not an insurrection. Okay, go watch Star Trek Insurrection. That's an insurrection, frankly.
Well, I mean, and the thing about, we have a Capitol where we still have these barriers up around a lot of the Capitol, right?
Right.
This is because part of the thing too is that we keep getting these reports, these supposed reports that, there's going to be something happening. On March 4th, there was going to be, QAnon or something was going to do, none of these things has ever come to fruition. But it's like the media and the Democrats are like, we want these reports to come out so that we have an excuse to make it look like that the Trump, that Donald Trump is responsible for turning, the Capitol into this whole, encampment where no one can get into anymore, and that there's always going to be some, domestic terrorism around the corner. It's absolutely crazy.
And Don, this is my theory. They're going to say the 4th of July. They're going to say the 4th of July. There's going to be a lot of people coming to Washington. They're going to say, "Oh, we got to keep the barriers up." That's what they're going to do. And I just want to say, Speaker Pelosi, tear down that wall. I've said it every week. Tear down that wall, Speaker Pelosi.
Come on, remember the 4th of July is fine because didn't President Biden say we can gather by then, right?
But that's only with our families in our
You
backyard.
can have a small barbecue in your backyard. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize we were supposed to stop doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
That, but he, and he also was still toting this, there's another strand of the virus or strain of the virus, and we have to be careful, and continuing to stoke Americans' fears about another strain of the coronavirus and how we should all be fearful of it. But now the CDC says that we can be, 3 feet away from each other. So
we are real
well,
close.
and that whole thing, Joellen, I mean, in terms of this other strain, that's, we had Rand Paul and Fauci get into a big argument about all of this, right? In terms of that. And I give Paul credit for going after him and trying to take Fauci down a little bit, because it's I never know what Fauci's going to say. I mean, one day it seems like he's talking about this aspect of it, and then it's safe, and then it's not safe, and whatever, and all this kind of stuff. It makes my head spin trying to listen to Fauci.
And the 3 feet thing really is back to normal, right? There's a study out there that shows that 3 feet, that's basically what people consider their personal bubble anyway, is like any closer than 3 feet and like, whoa, why are you in my face?
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things I thought about when I saw the 3 feet thing come out was just like, okay, so they're saying it's 3 feet is fine for like elementary schools and more teaching. It's like, I didn't go back to see, but I can only imagine that teachers unions across the country are like, no way, Jose, we're not going back.
Don, shouldn't churches open up now 3 feet? Churches should be able to be full capacity pretty much,
Well, yeah, I got word this afternoon that we don't have to do a sign-up sheet anymore to go to church. We can go now.
That's great.
I have a couple of friends on Facebook who are teachers who are like, 3 feet. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I'm like, well, that's the CDC's recommendation. If you're like following the CDC like it's gospel for everything else, you can't pick and choose which ones you're happy with.
Right. I mean, they talk about following the science. If the CDC is saying it, and you've held them up as the arbiter of science, then follow the CDC.
And here's the thing: they are not following the science, frankly. Because first of all, the WHO, and not the rock band, by the way, the World Health Organization, which we unfortunately joined again. By the way, the WHO, much better than the other WHO. But anyway,
I don't really think too many people these days are confusing WHO with the WHO.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised. When we first started,
it's probably in your bubble.
Yeah. Okay, Joey, topic comment.
My point is this: the WHO said masks were not effective. Then they said they were effective. And I think now they're back to saying masks really don't do anything.
I thought they were saying wear 2 masks.
I thought it was Joe Biden that said wear 2 masks.
I don't know. My brother was planning
double masking and triple masking
at his wedding, and I told him I'm not doing it.
I don't understand that at all.
But
look, what do you call him, Dwight? His fraudulency.
His fraudulency, yes. No. Joe Biden is his.
Yeah. Says, follow the science. Why isn't anyone listening to Joe Biden now? Why are we not following the science all of a sudden?
I was an A student in science. I know people like Joe Biden. They were like the D and C students. They barely got the C in science class, and they were really happy when they got a C. I am not going to listen to a C student about talking about science, especially when he probably flunked out of science.
All right, I'll stop. Sorry. I didn't do great in science or math, but I'm here.
Well, but Joe Biden, remember he said he was one of the smartest. He graduated at the top of his class.
Yeah, and so he lied about that. He lied about everything else, and he continues to lie. And half the time he doesn't know if his wife is his sister or his sister is his wife. And now he doesn't know if Kamala is his vice president or if she's the president and he's not the president. He's so confused. I mean,
did he call himself vice president? Did he call himself vice president at one point recently?
No, but he called her the president, President Harris. I mean,
yeah, he did that the other day. That's not the first time.
What in the world? I mean, seriously, this guy is a train wreck.
He is. And
it won't be the last time he'll call her President Harris either, will it?
Well, at some point he'll actually be correct about it when she invokes the 25th Amendment on him.
But when do we find out if she's the one that greased the stairs going up Air Force One?
Right.
All right, hey, we're coming up near the end, but I do want to ask something on one of Dwight's favorites is the fact that Dan Bongino has been signed by Cumulus Media.
Oh, you got him started. Here we go.
Yep, to take over for a Limbaugh spot. Now remember, that doesn't mean that's on every station, because I think the stations are going to have a decision to whether or not to air Bongino. But
White is the natural successor.
Well, Dan's a great guy and all that, but I really think Chris Plant, for the home team, so to speak, Chris Plant would have been a much better choice for that noon time slot. Dan, not taking nothing away from Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino almost beat what's his name? Who's the moron? Who was your former moronic congressman before the new moronic congressman you got, Joellen?
Trone?
Yeah, no, before Trone, the other moron.
Van Hollen?
Yeah, no, not Van Hollen. No, you're not in 6.
Delaney.
Yes, John Delaney. You're not in 6.
Delaney.
But anyways, my point is, what do you call it? The fact that Dan Bongino pretty much almost beat John Delaney. I think there may have been some voter fraud, is why he lost. But because Maryland does have that history. Remember Governor Ellen Sauerbrey? She was governor for a few hours. But my point is, Dan will do okay, but I don't know if he'll be in the DC market. I think Chris Plant, they might, because the MAL is, if you've noticed, they've kind of gone back to their local roots, having an afternoon drive with Larry O'Connor, local guy. They may put Chris Plant, because Chris Plant is already syndicated, they put him at the 9 o'clock time slot. He would probably pick up a lot of the Rush Limbaugh affiliates, around the country. Because I talk to people around when I'm down in Florida, places like that, they get Chris Plant and they go, we really like Chris Plant. I go, yeah, Chris is one of our local guys, But Chris has a really good audience, even Chris or Larry, either one of them, I think would be great in Rush's time slot.
Well, what about, like Mark Stein, who's filled in for Rush a lot over the years?
Exactly.
Mark would be good too. Mark
That's
Stein.
just the point. That's the point right there, is he was the guest host for most of Rush's, when Rush was out for his cancer treatments and when he didn't feel well.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Stein probably filled in for Rush more than just about anybody.
Yeah.
He did, yes.
I think would have also been another good choice if they moved Mark Levin to the noon to 3 hour.
I love
that. Would have been hilarious.
He's great.
Yeah. So.
All right.
But
they also could have done what Fox is doing with their.
I want to get Matt's sense on the whole thing. Hey Matthew, Dr. Foldy, you've been rather quiet today. You're on mute.
Oh, Jason's been quieter than that.
I don't think he's spoken at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of good basketball games going on today.
Jason's a man with his priorities in order.
What is this? Ohio State lost?
Oral Roberts for the win. I have University of Maryland winning every single bracket I did. Everyone.
Really?
Boy, that's a home.
That's bold. That's bold, but all right.
That's way bold.
I living with my brother during March Madness when he screams at the TV when Maryland.
Hey, by the way, did GW get invited to the NIT, the Naughton tournament?
Why are you asking me like I know what that is?
Are they playing the NIT?
Decent team.
Anybody?
I don't know. Are they? I don't know.
I don't sport,
so,
Dwight. You know that.
One of our viewers should know. One of our viewers will chime in and say something.
All right, Dwight. We ought to be.
Yeah, we're at final thoughts. Let's start with Matthew Foldy, Dr. Foldy, the original doctor. Back. How's it feel to be back on the show? I know we're not at our favorite pizza place, which is no longer
soon,
in
God
business
willing.
now.
Well, we had enough pizza yesterday and Saturday.
That is true.
No, it's
Sunday.
What number episode is this, Dwight?
We're probably over 100 now. This might be because we've been doing it for a year every week since last year. So theoretically, this is 52, and we've done probably we're probably a little over 100 episodes now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to our first one, and you built a juggernaut.
We used our iPhone to broadcast off.
And the waiter was very confused at what was going on. But
Yes.
I look forward to doing it again in person. This was a great chat. I don't have anything to add other than I am confident in all of my. Not only do I have UMD winning, I have them winning with the most points possible, 999, shutting out whoever I pick on the other side of the opponent. I have a lot of money riding on this result happening. So I hope my bracket lasts longer than Obama's.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Joey Lynn, final thoughts, or would you like me to return to you? It looked like you were writing down your final thoughts.
Oh yeah, go ahead, return. Go
You
to
want me
someone else.
Okay, Jackie, final thoughts.
Let's see.
And it's plural now, but it's final thoughts.
Always
not
got
final
thoughts.
thought.
Let's see. I have so many thoughts. That's why I can't sleep at night. Now I think I have two. The first one is political. You know, I don't know how many people know this. We have a ton of municipal races this year, like over 300, I think. So if you have any interest in getting involved in politics at the local level, because that's really where the most change happens, contact your central committee, contact the state GOP, contact anyone on this call. You know, we're happy to get you set up and get you in office because we really need that representation. Those are the smaller seats that we can really flip. My non-political one, to all my Hebrews and Shebrews out there, almost Passover, so get your carb loading in like Matt and I did yesterday while you can.
Hey, matzah's great. I do like matzah and pizza and matzah.
Matzah's
pizza is
great
really
when you're trying not to go bathroom regularly.
No, but matzah pizza is really good. Yeah.
I was born on the second Seder. I know what it's like to have matzah in place of birthday cake.
Final thoughts, Jason Trott.
I have a few final thoughts tonight,
Okay,
Dwight.
go for it.
So yesterday I received my COVID vaccine.
Yay!
And I wanted to thank the Trump administration for all of their hard work on Operation Warp Speed. Without that, it would not have been possible to get my shot.
Yeah,
or anybody for that.
Who's not
that.
giving credit to President Trump? You know, some guy in the White House now, right?
Exactly.
You know, why are they all getting our vaccines? Because didn't they all say they didn't trust the president's vaccine? Just saying.
Exactly. Let's see. The other final thought I had, my bracket, I picked Alabama to win it all because they have a good defense. They have great cornerbacks and wide receivers. Their quarterback can really sling the ball. No, I'm kidding. But I did pick Alabama to win this year. I thought it'd be good to see a football team win the NCAA basketball tournament.
Mac
or a
Jones,
football
the
school.
Patriots.
And then my third final thought is, Dwight, I'm thinking about running for local office. Is there any sort of trainings going on that I could?
we've got Candidate Palooza coming
What a
tomorrow.
loaded question.
Candidate Palooza, you can still sign up if you go to, I believe you guys have it on the MDGOP site, a link, and we got one on the Montgomery County Republican Club's link. The training starts tomorrow, 10 a.m. Jason, are you going to be one of the surprise instructors, or that's one?
Sure. Wow, that sounds like a great idea. I'm an instructor, but I also want to learn.
Yeah, actually, we'll talk offline, but I do need you to help, as in kind of manage the gate, so to speak.
He was only half joking.
Yeah. But we've got Candidate Palooza, a long tradition. I just got that domain today, but at candidatepalooza.com, so we'll be able to build some. Right now, it redirects to the State Department. But but anyways, any more final thoughts, Jason? Tell what's happening in Annapolis. Give us a real quick 30 seconds. What's happening in Annapolis? How much damage have the Democrats done so far?
All kinds of damage. If you're under the age of 18 and commit a terrible, heinous crime like murder or rape, and you get sentenced, you can no longer get sentenced to life without parole. You have that option now. What else is going on? As a lot of people got emails this week, we have you got to pay sales tax on Spotify, Amazon, MailChimp. Anything digital, you got to pay sales tax on now. There's a lot of bad bills going through. They cut Boost, which will really hurt some of the kids in Baltimore City who are in struggling schools. The Boost program lets you. It was kind of pro school choice, and the Democrats cut that from the budget.
And what did Delegate Learman say? Didn't Delegate Learman say something about
Baltimore schools aren't failing; they're fine.
$18,000. I did some quick research this afternoon when I heard that. Did you know you could send a child to a parochial school in Baltimore City for about $8,000 a year? You could send them to a non-parochial private school, starting at around $15,000 to $18,000 a year, and they're turning out much better kids than Baltimore City public schools. Shame on you, Delegate Learman. You're as bad as your dad. You grew up in privileged Montgomery County. I guess that's why you say what you say, Madame Privilege. But Yeah. So, Joey Lynn, final thoughts, or do you have some more? Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. Thanks, Dwight.
Joey Lynn, final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean this is pretty much it. I mean, every 90 days in the Maryland legislature, it's a real problem for us conservatives because the Democrats just love to shove bad policy and bad bills and laws down our throat. It's like drinking from a garden hose or a fire hose every single time we go into the legislative session every 90 days. So I wish that we could do what we did last year when coronavirus hit. They stopped it, they shortened it, and they were out. That way they couldn't pass any more bad laws anymore, bad bills or bad policy. So I think we need to go to that, shorten it less than 90 days so they have less time to pass bad bills and save Marylanders, because right now we have, as Jason just said, we're in trouble here. Which is a problem. And I'm really just tired of all the boxes that all these Democrats and liberals are putting us all in. You know, you're boxed. Everybody's in a box. You're in a category.
We are in a box. We're in 6 boxes right now, Joey Lynn. We're all in a box.
Right. But what I'm saying is, we're all labeled something. Everybody has to be, in some sort of a categorized. Why can't we just be Americans? Yep. What's the difference? There shouldn't be color and all that, and there shouldn't be class warfare. That's basically what's happening. And if you have an opinion that's different from someone else's, they're all about canceling you. And over here in real close to me, Lovettsville is having a huge issue with their school over there. Their Board of Education went and was doxing parents with the critical race theory. It's nuts over there. So, I mean, that is serious. That is really some serious issues where you got Board of Education doxing parents. This is all out of control. And I just hope that somebody with half a brain I don't know, transplants something into Biden or something, because we are in trouble in America, and we really need Trump back ASAP.
We
need Trump back.
All right, Joellen, I'm about to say something nice about a Democrat. Governor William Donald Schaefer would say the Maryland legislature meets for 89 days too many.
Yes, agree.
I
know my husband, Senator Huff, it's tiring. He was supposed to come home tonight, and then they told him 7:00 session. And so he was in session. They went out for a break, and then he had to go back at 7:00 again to fight the Democrats and fight all the bad bills again. And then they're saying that they have Saturday session again.
Saturday session?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So they don't just do it Monday through Friday. They do it Saturdays too, in the dark of the night, so they can pass every bad bill imaginable.
See, if we did session in July for 30 days, they'd be in and out in 14, because unless they put air conditioning in the Capitol building, I know for the longest time they had no central air in the Capitol building. They'd be in and out so fast, make your head spin. They wouldn't even bother fighting stupid stuff.
And my last final thought is get these kids back to school ASAP, 5 days a week, and stop this nonsense.
Don Irvine, final thoughts.
Yeah, a couple things. I think one is this gal, Alexi McCammond, who resigned her new position as editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue before she even started, because the advertisers and people at the magazine were upset about her racist and homophobic tweets, as has been reported. Now, I'm not trying to defend this girl. She worked at Axios. She's a girlfriend of TJ Ducklow, who worked for Biden, who resigned that position after that relationship was revealed. But she did this when she was like 17 or 18 years old. And, even though I wouldn't agree with her at all, I'm beginning to wonder if this cancel culture just isn't really getting a little bit too far, that you're holding someone accountable for things that they said as a teenager. There are a lot of dumb things people said as teenagers. I'm not sure that this is really a fair evaluation of who she is, but what's done is done. The other thing is actually kind of, probably goes along a little bit with Joellen. I don't have any kids in school anymore in Montgomery County, but I am incensed at how slow Montgomery County has been in getting the kids back to school. I'm glad that I'm seeing school buses on the roads right now, but they're only doing K through 3 and they're rolling out the other ones like in April. I don't, what is the deal with, why do they have to go through this slow, tedious process to get everybody back? The kids have been out way too long. The hybrid learning thing sucks. It doesn't really work for most kids. This is a terrible, terrible thing for the kids in our county, as well as across the nation, of what they have lost due to the virus and due to these politicians. And part of that too goes to also the slow rollout on lifting of restrictions. All the other counties have been, they get the word from the governor, they decide what they're going to do. Normally it takes effect within a few days. No, Montgomery County, 2 weeks. We got to wait till the 26th before most of these things are lifted. In the meantime, the businesses are continuing to struggle and suffer. This is outrageous. Unfortunately, we live in Montgomery County where we can't do a heck of a lot about it because we're so outnumbered. So we have got to turn this around sometime. This is just ridiculous.
Don Irvine for county executive.
Yeah. I think Don, when I got him for state senate, he says once and done. Don did the second best of any Republican running in 2010, by the way. 33% of the vote in District 19. My final thoughts are, I got a few of them. One, I want to say thank you, Vice President Pence. Because of you, we are viable in space travel. We're no more are we using Russian antiquated Uber to send astronauts to the space station. We're doing it on our own, and that's because of President Trump and Vice President Pence's commitment to NASA. I fear what Joe Biden will do with NASA. Hopefully, he'll have the good sense to just let NASA be NASA, frankly. Let us do our thing. NASA is the most efficient government agency there is. There is no agency better than NASA, frankly.
Not that you're biased or anything.
I mean, look, I also, there's 16 other agencies I know of too, but NASA is the cream of the crop. It is the best. They actually do stuff, and you can actually point to their accomplishments. What can I point to what has HHS done that I can point to and say, look, they did that. Good job, HHS. I really can't, with a straight face, say stuff like that. And my other final thoughts is the fact that we're marking a sad milestone. We're 1 year since the pandemic this past week. Pi Day was the last day things were normal. And this year, things still aren't normal at the second Pi Day. And we've been doing this. It's been a long road, get from here to there. And I must say, we anticipate the return to normalcy come June, God willing. Because we need to go back to our in-person state conventions where we can do Friday night hospitality suites, where we can have some fun, and get some real business done. Hopefully no one runs to the microphone and does a motion to adjourn in like 2 minutes or whatever once we get there, because they all want to go play the slot machines. And then my last final thought is this. We've got Candidate Palooza. We're looking for a good candidate for county executive in Montgomery County. We need good candidates everywhere, frankly. And I know there's some folks who seem to think that we don't need to have any candidates, but 1 or 2 candidates in all of Montgomery County. But that's a fool's mission, frankly, because when you have a number of state senators that are running unopposed and delegates unopposed in Montgomery County, guess what they're going to do? They're going to spend that money against you to bury the last Republican. So we need to help out folks they target folks like Senator Huff. We need to have all the Senate slots filled in Montgomery County so they can't go and spend money against Senator Huff, because we need Senator Huff in the state Senate. And that's my final thought. Vote Republican for a change.
Yay. Go
Bye,
Trump.
everyone. Happy Passover, by the way.
Yes.
Shabbat
Happy
shalom, everyone.
Yeah.
And happy early